It forced me to change my repertoire altogether. So when I got traded over here in 2012, I threw a lot more sinkers into left-handed hitters, try to get them to pull the ball and take advantage of how deep it is on that side of the field, and then try to pitch away to righties. So I think we talk about hitters that fit the park really well, and guys like Bregman and what we've seen from Sedon lately. But as a pitcher, I think there's an opportunity to kind of take advantage of Fenway as well.
Is that something you've ever talked to the current pitchers about, or this group about, just your experience pitching here?
We've talked about it a little bit. These guys also have way better stuff than I do, and the ability to get swings and misses, and kind of get weak contact plays into their favor, probably more so than trying to direct where batters are going to hit the ball.
So along the lines of thinking about the better stuff, that the kind of stuff that pitchers have, you're approaching this year's draft. You're 1 year out from your first draft, right? And that first draft yielded Braden Montgomery, who obviously ended up being a very important part of the Garrett Crochet trade. In addition to which, you also went heavy on pitching and got guys like Peyton Tolley, who's now kind of flying up prospect rankings. Brandon Clark, who's also kind of made a name for himself by having an elite arm. How do you feel about how that first draft went in terms of introducing a wave of pitchers to the organization and then working with that wave in order to kind of develop them into something other than what they had been in college mostly?
Yeah, I think it's really early to conclude a ton outside of recognizing that we had a lot of really young, exciting position players, and pitching development was something that was maybe lagging relative to that position player group. And there's been an influx of pitchers, and Justin Willard and the pitching coordinating group and the pitching coaches have done a great job of really pushing the development of stuff. So we've got guys who are throwing hard and throwing really good breaking balls, and also balancing that out with needing to be in the zone and being competitive. I think the joke coming out of the draft was that we had drafted an NBA team.
Yeah.
I think the average height was something like 6'6" from those guys.
Just like you.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Just when I was drafted, I was 6'4".
Yeah.
Now I'm 5'10".
The job does take a lot out of you. I understand. You go from the draft pretty much right to the trade deadline now, right? And that's the way it goes. Now, we talked about this last week, that, this team was built with the expectation of making the playoffs, and you approach this deadline at this point. They haven't done anything to change that. They've been winning games. When you start to look ahead at that, is there any early feel for how this might play off? Will it be active? Are you getting calls compared to last year? Can you sort of compare even where you are right now to what kind of traffic there was a year ago?
Yeah, I think it's similarly paced, where I think early July teams start to make very kind of cursory calls and just get a sense for where teams are starting to head, and then things quiet down a little bit around the draft as everyone gets really focused on adding new exciting talent to the organization. And then coming out of the draft, it'll pick up in earnest, and we'll get more serious engagement. We're kind of creating our own hurdles as an industry, in that teams understand that you very rarely get trades executed until you get right up against the deadline, and you never get a team's best offer until right up against the deadline. And so as much as we try to be aggressive and push teams, it's just really difficult to overcome.
And yet, you've already made, I'm not sure if you remember this, you did make one trade earlier this summer, right? There was one, I think, in mid-June. And then you also have this other thing that's happening, which is that you're getting healthier. And so you've had a very crowded outfield, one where you've already been kind of trying to gerrymander playing time in order to using the DH spot for your wealth of talented left-handed outfielders. You're going to be Masa Yoshida will be part of that mix now. Does that put you in a position where you kind of have to think about, are we do we want to trade from this area of depth in order to address other areas of need? Could the return of Masa be a kind of precipitating element for thinking about trades a little bit earlier than you might?
Yeah, it's something we have to think about. I don't think you ever want to be in a position where you have to make a trade. And there's this very fine line between having the problem of an overcrowded roster and having enough depth to weather injuries and keep guys off their feet. And I think the flexibility of opening the DH spot gives the opportunity for Alex to kind of rotate through that position and make sure that guys are getting at bats. And it does mean that on any given night there could be a really good player who's not in the lineup. But as we've seen, the way that Alex manages is really aggressively. And just because you don't start the game doesn't mean that you don't find yourself in it at a critical moment. Now I think there potentially could be some opportunities to make what I think people would call just like baseball trades, right? Where you're using depth in one area to address a need in another, and I think we'll be very open-minded about those things. But I don't think we're in a position where we have to make a trade.